Hello, everybody, and welcome to Battle Chads. I am Josh, and I'm here with my co-host Luis.
Hello, hello, hello.
And today we're going to do a top 5 rundown of the sort of our picks for the top 5 modern decks since the settling of the BNR. Now, Luis, last year we had the fabled BNR that everyone was looking forward to. We had some unexpected unbans. Everyone's talked about it. You know, modern has been up in arms, been so excited, but it's finally settled.
Absolutely. It's still a small bit of Wild West, but it's settled a lot more than it was, the last few weeks, especially since the BNR, happened. It was complete and total mayhem. Everyone was on their favorite pet deck of the planet, and if that pet deck wasn't Twin, you were wrong. That's how it seemed to be. We ended up speaking about the unbanned cards and what we thought was going to be taking effect. I think we mentioned that Faithless Looting was the one we were expecting to be the strongest potential one. While Twin we expected to be a meme for the most part. We were right on the Twin part, but not as correct on the Faithless Looting. It's still probably the second strongest. I'm not sure. But Mox Opal, wow, what a card! Scary
Fast
card.
Fast mana in modern. You know, all the banned cards that we've seen in the previously have been, a lot of fast mana stuff. Your Simian Spirit Guides and that have always been banned out of modern, and they've unbanned the fast mana of Opal, and it has been the true enabler of some of the best decks currently. You know, a lot of artifact based strategies, combo decks, etc. But yeah, we were generally right. You know, Green Sun Zenith wasn't. We thought that might be a sort of combo enabler, but it hasn't been. It's been more of like a fur sort of toolbox enabler more than anything. So it's been a great addition to re-addition to modern. And Faithless Looting is not quite been as the powerhouse as it once was. You know, you don't really see Dredge, those sort of archetypes anymore. You know, we've seen a couple of Hollow One. I think Hollow One was probably the one deck that sort of benefited from the Faithless Looting unban the best. You know, the Detectives Phoenix sort of decks. Absolutely. But yeah, it's settled. It was Wild West towards the end of last year, wasn't it? Absolutely Wild West.
Oh yeah. It's I'm a little sad. I was really hoping Faithless would be the best. It's one of my favorite cards, but it's not keeping up as much as you thought. There's a lot of free spell, Endurance, Force of Negation, blah blah blah. It all deals with it. And I saw the other day, Jack, one of our team members, he literally fought a Phoenix deck. One of my favorites. The Phoenix player reanimated 3 Arclight Phoenix on turn 2, and Jack still won.
Yeah,
it's like, if that's not good enough, maybe it's time to put the deck to the side. It was literally just Ocelot Ocelot Pride and Guide of Souls just tempoing out the Phoenix. They just couldn't keep up. It's too much life gain, too much stuff. Sad.
Cheers, Modern Horizons.
Oh,
cheers. Yeah. But it wasn't. Modern's not quite the format as it was in 2018 when Phoenix was the best deck there, and it's not quite the format when in 2016 when Splinter Twin got banned. There's a lot of interaction. People were excited by the BNR though, but I think it took. So traditionally, it was a meta shake-up, then there'd be a big tournament, i.e. a Pro Tour, and then the meta would sort of like focus and everyone knew what sort of where it was, the meta was, what to beat, etc., what to play. And we had that recently in the SCG sort of tour, which happened the weekend before this pod. So massive tournament, almost Pro Tour style GP-esque tournament, and a lot you see a lot of these meta sort of staples really focusing what they're doing within the meta post bans. So this pod, what we're going to talk about is we've picked 5 decks that we think are the best decks in modern right now. So we're confident that these are the 5 best decks right now, by 5 best things to be doing. We have got a standard. We have talked about standard as well. We've got a standard list coming out the next pod after this one. But for now, we're just going to focus on modern and deliver what we think is the best decks. Now, we're not going to have a visual aid with this. We're just going to put 5 example decks, much like what we did with the 12 decks of Christmas, where we spoke about the archetype, what they do, sort of strengths, weaknesses, etc. we'll give you an example deck list, and then it then gives the listener an avenue to then explore that archetype if it tickles their fancy.
Exactly. All those are going to be linked on the description above, below. No, below. When we're
Yeah, show notes below. Yeah,
and you can find the deck lists we're looking at and referencing. But be warned, there's going to be 1,001 different deck lists for most of these decks, as nothing is fully solved. Some of these decks are technically unsolvable. Things like Demir Murktide, where there isn't an exact perfect deck list. There's never going to be. It's not a combo deck. It is it answers what it wants to answer kind of deck. So you have to be very aware the deck list changed quite a bit. But for the most part, you'll have 70 to 73 of the 75 cards may be the same thing, or different flavors or different pet cards preferences that happen on there. And to start it, I think I'm going to go from the top down, because Modern is quite open. Nothing is exactly the absolute best. This is just what we believe to be the number, the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these slots. And I want to talk about them this way as well, so we can reference them a little bit easier for everybody. And what better way to start this than with a Mox Opal deck, huh?
Yep. Mox Opal has truly shined in this deck, and it's something that we, I think we mentioned it when we on our post. A post unbanned sort of reaction. This is a deck that got very, very strong after the Mox Opal ban, and that is Grinding Station or Team of Breach. Now, Team of Breach has been a deck in Modern, a well-loved deck in Modern beforehand, and it used, Mox Ambers and Grinding Station with
Underworld Breach.
I don't know why I'm literally looking at the card right now. I'm like, why can't I say words?
It used to be a Jeskai version as well, right? Yeah, it used to be Jeskai using the likes of Ragavan and Emery to be the legendaries, or sometimes the fairy as well. But now, Modern Horizons 3 has changed that a little bit, and with the unbanned as well, you have a much better Mox to be using. You're using the likes of Tamio, Inquisitive Student, and still have Emery to really be those like early game legendaries.
Yes.
And then because you don't need them as much, because of Mox Opal, right? You just make a bunch of artifacts, whether that's with Baubles, the other Moxes. Sometimes you get Guidance Station or Tamio attacking for a clue.
Tamio attacking, yeah.
Yeah, those are the easiest ways to just turn on your Opals and you go off, right? It's a deck that can beat you, I think, turn 2, but usually it's turn 3 that they get you. This is a deck that I like to put akin to Amulet Titan, where it's easy to do the main game plan. Like, it's relatively easy to do the easy combos, but it takes a lot of effort and a lot of skill to really learn all the lines and the intricacies. Where a perfect pilot, I think this is the best. If you are a perfect pilot, and it's really hard to be a perfect pilot.
Really understand the deck, yeah.
Like, it is one of the hardest things. This is probably the best deck. However, there's so much room to make mistakes, so many errors you can make that there are so minute but matter so much that you might not notice.
I mean, it's a Urza Saga deck as well. So you've got that toolbox element to it. You've got the secondary line of attack. You can beat people down with big construct tokens, etc. And beyond the main combo, there's that, as Luis was saying, if you have the fundamental understanding of the deck, then you know how much you're going to utilize the graveyard, or if you're actually going to use Thassa's Oracle, hard casting it from your hand, etc. Most like the legacy players, Cephalid Breakfast-esque sort of game plan where you mill your entire deck out using the combination of Grinding Station with Underworld Breach and then casting your Thassa's Oracle. But you do have the ability to flip Tamio, get incremental value there. But also with Tamio, you've got an enabler to slow down the sort of game against the really aggro decks, because if you don't want to get an aggro deck to get underneath this deck if you're playing this deck, so you can get your combo online. But yeah, it's playing arguably some of the best cards in Modern right now. Mox Opal is a hell of an unban for this deck.
Absolutely. And it has a great value plan, like you were saying, Saga. Sometimes you just die to the beatdown.
Yeah.
It turns out when they make a bunch of clue tokens and just have a bunch of random artifacts laying around, those Saga tokens get to be 7/7s, 8/8s, 12/12s, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it hurts, man. It's painful.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be really ready for what this deck is doing, be able to fight on multiple angles, and it really you have to be careful. Tap out at the wrong time, and it's lights out. You're done.
So the way this combo works is you have Grinding Station, which is a 2-mana artifact, and it reads tap, sacrifice an artifact. Target player puts the top 3 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. Whenever an artifact comes into play, you may untap Grinding Station. So what you would do is you would tap Grinding Station, you would sacrifice Mox Amber or Mox Opal. You then mill 3 cards. Then with Underworld Breach out, you can then recast Mox Amber or Mox Opal with the 3 cards. With the 3 cards that have you've just essentially milled over. Repeat this until you get a Thassa's Oracle either from your hand or in the bin, and you cast Thassa's Oracle to win the game. That's sort of the baseline set combo. There's different ways to go about it. You could have what if you have your Thassa's Oracle countered or consigned or whatever, and there's ways to sort of interact with that using Shifting Woodlands, for example, is a card that's played in the land base. If in response to a surgical extraction or something like that, you can then respond by making a copy of it and maybe not a copy of the Thassa's Oracle because you won't get the ETB trigger, but make copies of like Underworld Breach or Opal or whatever you need to do.
Exactly. There's a few ways to make it happen. You can even sometimes, let's say, they consign to memory your Thassa's Oracle trigger, which happens decently often. You can kill your own Thassa's Oracle with Unholy Heat and then replay it again because Underworld Breach lets you do that. So you have to be ready to interact with whatever your opponent's doing. You don't play a massive amount of counter spells, generally speaking. You have, I think, a few spell pieces on the side. That's the usual kind of counter spells that you play. You do have... because your teamer Veil of Summer available to you as well, or post board you could bring in things like Jace Wielder of Mysteries as a second Thassa's Oracle style card.
Yep.
There's a few different ways, and there's even other versions of this deck that instead of playing Thassa's Oracle, they play what's it called, Grape Shot, the Storm card. They deal 1 damage to target of any target, and it has Storm. It's really easy to do. You can cast Opal 1,000 different times in this deck, and then you go, here's my Grape Shot, you're dead. So it's a very, very cool deck, very convoluted sometimes, a lot of different angles of attack, but it is very, very fun. I've been practicing a lot against it because of the upcoming RC, and man, am I scared. I really have to be ready for this deck.
I don't think this will be the most played deck at all. No. Not for the reasons that Luis said, the fact that it's really hard to pilot. There's lots of lines of attack, you need to know what you're doing. It's not as straightforward as something like Boros Energy, which we'll talk about soon. But this, I believe this is the best deck in Modern right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so as well. Definitely something to watch out for. Be ready. Gotta have a game plan against this. Otherwise, you're not coming to things prepared.
Exactly, yeah. Pack your Hercules Recall and your Meltdowns. Your graveyard hits up.
But now, talking about things that you might be already prepared for... an oldie but a goodie. Your favorite hasn't gone away. It's still around, maybe slightly powered down. Boros Energy. Yippee-ki-yay.
So Boros Energy was one of the decks that was one of the problem decks, the pre-ban meta. It was either Boros Energy, you're either doing Boros Energy stuff or you're doing broken combo stuff to beat the Boros Energy stuff. Mainly because of the One Ring. The One Ring is now gone, but they also got rid of the Amped Raptor, which was causing a lot of issues with the explosive turn 2 turns. You play Amped Raptor, you could then sometimes even ramp into a Blood Moon or to lock your opponent out if you had the energy, or even like another Ajani
or a One Ring.
Or sometimes a One Ring, it gets you there. So yeah, it was a really problematic deck. It has been nerfed quite significantly, but it's still very powerful, and it's arguably going to be the most shown deck still, just because it's more straightforward. It's not as hard to play as the Team of Breach deck we were just talking about. So this may be the perceived best deck, but we don't believe it is the best deck. It's a very good deck, and It's everywhere. I'm not sure if it's still a problem. You know, Guided Souls, Ocelot Pride combination together is pretty
Scary.
pretty disgusting still. Guided Souls, what a card.
Oh boy. But with all that, you know, while it still has its main stuff, everyone still owns their energy cards. That's what we expect it to be quite played. It has gotten weaker. It is more answerable. Wraths have gotten significantly better against it.
Yep.
And it's such a known deck that you have to watch out, because everyone's going to know how to play against you. So you better know how to play against everyone else. Otherwise, you're going to be caught with your pants down. It has the usual powerful stuff of you know, a Ajani with a Goblin Bombardment. You flip the Ajani and then you start going to town. And it has some new kind of cool tools with like Seasoned Pyromancer. You know, the good old I think it was MH1 card that I love. It got completely made obsolete by Fable of the Mirror Breaker, but people have found a new love for it, as it's a red permanent. It makes a bunch of little tokens, so it kind of works to the strategy of energy already. And it's very good at discarding your Flages as well, so you can get that going a bit faster. And unlike Fable, it is actual card advantage when you're empty-handed. So you know, when you play it, you have to discard up to 2 cards, but you always draw 2 cards. So it's a really good way of refilling your hand up now that you've lost the 1 ring, to keep that going. Has graveyard value, has a lot of different tools available to it. You know, it's a 3 mana 2/2 that ETB, discard up to 2 cards and then draw 2 cards. Whenever you discard a non-land, you make a 1/1 elemental creature. It's a 1/1 red elemental. Kind of like, you know, Young Pyro, but
which counts for flipped Johnny.
Yes, it does. It's red, which is really, really important. And it has the usual other tools of just good stuff, energy, great removal package, strong attackers. There's quite a few variations now. I know I've been speaking with Jack, one of our local energy aficionados for the team. You know, there's cards like Felia that people are using. There is what's it called? It's just like Lava Pyromancer guy, which is like a 2/2 with haste for 2 mana that landfall give it Battle Cry. So if you have a fetch land, it gives it double Battle Cry. So some really cool cards, and then a card that I can't remember how to pronounce it. I'll tell you what it does. Maybe someone can tell us in the comments what exactly it is. It's a 2/3 that has whenever a non-creature source you control deals damage equal to the toughness of another creature, like exactly the toughness, draw a card. So with Goblin Bombardment, if you ping a 1/1 with anything, you draw a card. And it has X tap it, and it's like the next non-combat damage source that you deal or whatever deals that much, right? And more. Deals X plus that. Plus its normal amount. So it's quite scary. It does a lot of damage.
How that translates to as well, that if you sacrifice a creature with Goblin Bombardment, it's sacrifice a creature, ping you, draw 1. So it turns your Ocelot Pride tokens into a draw engine that way. It's something the testing, after a few Boros Energy players testing against the mirror, it's still a body that can be killed relatively easily, can be fatal push, etc. But generally, like, I would say that Falia is a really Felia, or however we pronounce it. Exuberant Shepherd is a really good card, which is a 2/2 for 1 and a white. With flash, whenever Felia Exuberant Shepherd attacks, exile to 1 target non-land permanent at the beginning of the next end step, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. If it's entered under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Felia. So the Felia can get big, which is kind of handy in the mirror, but also the fact that you can bounce a reset a Murktide, reset a Frog, you know, that sort of thing. It has some good text, a good text to it. So yeah, and the fact it's got flash is big too.
Exactly. It's a really cool card. It's scary for the Murktide players. You know, oh, here's my 8/8 Murktide. Oh, here's my dog. I'll bounce your Murktide. It's no longer an 8/8. Is quite a rough thing, to say the least.
So yeah, Boros Energy is still alive and kicking. Still very, very tier 1. I wouldn't say it was tier S as it once was, but it's very, very tier 1, very, very competitive, and it's been winning a fair amount of challenges recently.
Absolutely. Which is... Well, no, I think we all expected that to keep happening, right? It's not surprising. It's Boros Energy is just really good, right?
So I actually thought the Mardu version was going to be in a better spot because of the black interaction plus Bowmasters, but it's actually, since the meta's really settled. People have just gone back to Boros Energy. Blood Moon's still really effective in this meta. I main board. I play Murktide as my main for modern, and I main board Harbinger of the Seas because the Blood Moon effects are really good right now. There's a lot of 3 mana sort of stuff that greedy mana bases that people are playing with, particularly in the wake of people brewing. So yeah, it's like Goblin Bombardment's really good. Ocelot Pride, so it's just a great shell of a deck.
Absolutely. It's it's a little. I wish that it had changed a bit more. I'm not gonna lie. I'm always one that I love people to innovate, but it's expected. It's a strong deck. It does what it does. It's
Guide of Souls is good. It's a good card, mate. Yeah. Guide of Souls is very good. I mean, I heard. I really wanted to get Krista on this podcast because she had some good opinions on Boros Energy and where it stands in the meta at the moment, and she strongly believed that something else had to have gone for Boros Energy. I'm not sure if I feel the same. I wouldn't have said no to a Guide of Souls banning, to be honest, but
I think it definitely is a deck that doesn't need more bannings. I think the deck has been kept under control, and it's going to continue to be answered as more things are printed. I think that Wizards have to be aware of Boros Energy and how strong it is and what it's doing. And while it is strong, it's not dominating like it used to, right? Not even close to how it was in terms of absolute dominance. So we'll see. I might have to eat my words. Who knows? Maybe the next set will have a really printed Boros card that just makes them go off the walls again. I found the name of the card. It's called Tai Joaquin. Perfect Shot. What a name. That's the 2/3 Boros card that we were talking about. But we'll see. Boros is a strong deck. I'm happy that it's not completely dead. A lot of people were really worried that it was going to potentially die out if they banned too many things. But just definitely one to watch out for. Which brings us to our one true blue, our baby, the apple of our eye. Your favorite deck as well, Josh.
Yep.
Say it with me.
How do you go say it? Because there's a few ways of saying this.
Let's go with Frog.
Froculus.
Yeah, let's go with that. Demir Froculus.
Froculus.
Yeah.
Excellent. Which is quite interesting because today I got my order from Haruyuya, which I placed last week when I was bored at work. So I got some Japanese Unearth, Japanese Thought Scours, some Japanese Brazen Borrowers as well. Like a nice little...
You own 11, 12 Brazen Borrowers now? What's wrong with you, man?
The card's good. Card's good, mate. The card's good. So, Demir Murktide, the whole purpose of this deck, it's a frog deck, a tempo deck. Plays... It wants to essentially cheat in a big, dirty Borant Oculus using Unearth. You can Thought Scour a Borant Oculus into the bin, or you can discard it using Frog, or you can even sometimes consider it into the bin. Once you've got that out, you then have a suite of stack interaction, force negations, spell pierce, spell snares, counter spells, etc., to then keep your threat dominating the battlefield and keeping the opponent's stuff at bay. So it's fundamentally at heart a tempo deck, but it has what the previous iterations of Murktide didn't have, which was an I win button in the form of something really broken as early as turn 2. So the ceiling of this deck is turn 2, 2 Oculuses potentially. But the lower floor is, you've got the counter spells, you've got stack interaction, you've got removal and forms of fatal push, and then you've just got Frog as a generally good threat that if you protect that threat will run away with the game. So it's a very popular deck, particularly in the UK, people love this deck. And it's a very powerful deck, and it has been winning challenges quite heavily since the Ring ban, because Ring was the biggest enemy of this deck in the previous meta.
Absolutely. And we were saying it for ages that if the One Ring was gone, this deck was going to take over. It's going to be great. And I think we were right on the money. The deck has been played tons. It's rising and rising every day. I'm happy to see it at the top. I'm always happy to have a fair deck of this style at the very top. And it's just so much fun, man. This deck is fun as heck to play. I know there's a lot of haters that I just counterspell and boring Sam Milner, but it's a great deck. It's very, very fun. I think it does exactly what it says on the tin, and you sometimes get to do the really powerful legacy-esque style of play where you go, I'll use my fetch land, surveil a Oculus into the bin, and I will reanimate it with Unearth, which is
skills.
Skills. Oh yeah, super skilled play, obviously, it's just one of the best feelings when that happens. It's really, really fun to do. Frog is a great card. I really hope they never ever ban that card. It is so much fun to play with. I know I'm sure I'm getting a lot of hateful comments about, no, Luis, you're wrong. Frog is a BS card that needs to go away. But no, it's fun. It's great, guys. It's just a cute little frog.
To those people, I say, get back into Legacy Discord. Because Frog is great. It's a really skill. It's an easy deck for anyone to pick up. You plays counter spells. It doesn't really broke a thing, but it really, you could tell the difference between a really good Demir Murktide or Demir Oculus player to one who's fairly new to the deck, because there's little certain things of interactions and timings that a typical tempo strategy has. And tempo, I've always said, is the sort of hardest sort of archetype to sort of master in that way. Me and you sweat over game lines of play all the time. It's like bickering old men arguing over a chessboard. The conversation and the depth you can go into this deck is quite interesting, which is probably why me and you are drawn to it. But the problems with this deck is that it faces a lot of problems of control, in the fact that you need to know what you want to beat, because I really wish sometimes this is a Yorion deck with the amount of cards that I wanted to play.
A 20 card sideboard would be great.
Yeah, 20 card sideboard would be great for this deck, because there's so many options available within the clean manner of blue-black. I know a lot of pilots, when the post bans, they splashed red for meltdowns because they feared the opal sort of decks. And one of the weaknesses to this deck particularly is Affinity. Affinity is a really hard matchup for this deck. So I think it was a way of trying to combat those sort of archetypes, but it seems that players have realised that splashing the mana for the red the red in your mana base is kind of dangerous, and you don't really want to mess with the already clean mana base that it has, with the already powerful cards that it has available to it.
Especially when you're using cards like Harbinger, right? Harbinger of the Seas is a card you usually want against most, if not all, artifact strategies, because they're all playing Urza Saga. And then you find out, oh yeah, here's my Urza Saga. Oh wait, I can't use my Meltdown because I don't have red, because I don't run a basic mountain. Oh, oops. It's awkward. It sucks. It's annoying. I can understand it, right? Meltdown is a great card. It is very, very powerful, but it just doesn't, for me at least, doesn't do exactly what I need it to do, or the impact that I want it to have. This deck it's really hard to get right. You'll see a lot of people trying different deck lists. Someone like Pyganti, who plays one of the most out there deck lists, but he might be completely right. He completely cuts off Counterspell from the deck, just doesn't play it. So, he said, nope, Counterspell is too awkward to play, and he's just playing a bunch of 1 mana interaction for a specific type of cards. More Stern Scoldings, more Snares, more whatever he wants, and that's the approach he's having, and having great success with it. I think he top 4 at a very recent challenge. He might be right, who knows? But then there's many other deck lists that have shown that 4 Counterspell is perfectly fine. Just have to find the right place to play it, the right time to play it, and it's just really, really cool. I love this kind of deck. It's always going to be the style of decks that I enjoy. I used to play Blue-Red Murktide back in the day. It was one of my favorites. Who knows? Blue-Red might still come around the corner at some point, but I think Frog is the one that's keeping it at bay right now.
Frog is too good not to play. It's so good. It stonewalls the aggro decks. It accumulates value. It's relatively easy to be removed as well, so I don't think it's that unfair. But yeah, Frog is the reason to be in these colors, really.
Absolutely, and it's I'm really, really interested to see what comes next, as this deck has a lot to give. I hope it keeps going, and hopefully I'll do really well with it at the RC. We'll see how things go.
Those pauper players amongst us who really liked Demir Terror will love this deck, because it plays Thought Scours to fuel your graveyard for your Murktides and your Oculuses that you can cast from your hand if you don't cheat them in. I'm really sad that it doesn't play Preordain anymore, because I got my Japanese Preordain signed by the artist when I was in Vegas.
I love Preordain. It's just
I hate
Thought Scour as well, but we'll see. We'll see how the deck evolves.
Thought Scour works well in this deck because it's enabling an engine. It's an engine generator, isn't it? It's not a card selection. It's not a typical cantrip. It's a really bad cantrip, actually. It's an awful cantrip, but it's an enabler, as we got to see as.
Yeah. And before we get carried away, make this into a Demir Murktide, Oculus Frogtide, whatever you want to call it, deck tech. Let's get over to our next joyful.
We should do that actually. We should do one.
Get it, make a refreshed one. Yeah. Let's talk about this so fun, yay, deck that we both love very, very much, especially as Oculus players. Eldrazi Ramp. The Teamer Ramp, Eldrazi Ramp, whatever you want to call it.
Duffy's ears did this. They went, "Ooh, did someone say?" His ears pricked right up.
Big mana with a giant Eldrazi. Yeah. I know it's a favorite for a lot of people. They love this kind of stuff. I've never been one for huge ramp style decks. It's not my kind of gameplay, but I can see the appeal. And very strong deck, very powerful deck. It has some really cool things, to be fair. Playing Emrakul the Promised End, even though I hate playing against it, is very, very cool and very, very fun.
I think the card that sets this card there's two cards in this deck that really set the power level really high. One of them is Kozilek's Command, and the second one is Sowing Micah's Spawn. Now, Sowing Micah's Spawn is a 3 and a green. It's a devoid creature, so it has no color. It has Kicker, 1 and a what are those lands called? They're just like colorless land.
Yeah, one and colorless. One and colorless.
So it has to be specifically a colorless. So when you cast a spell, search your library for a land card, put it into the battlefield, then shuffle. So you can then fetch your, whether it be your Ugin's Labyrinth or your Shifting Woodlands or whatever, Eldrazi Temples, or even Cavernous Souls if you're worried about counter spells. But then if it was kicked, when you cast a spell, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong card. When you cast a spell, if it was kicked, exile target land. So not only does it ramp you, but it destroys, it exiles one of their lands, which is absolutely disgusting.
Yeah,
awful.
It's one of these cards.
Horrible.
It's like hey, what if we give Tron one of its most hated effects, Ponza style effect? Yeah, let's do that. That sounds great, and that's what they did here. A ramping card that also blows up a land and leaves an annoying body behind. Great card, sets you up. Obviously, these kind of versions don't play the Tron pieces anymore. There is some decks that still do. So, there is still the Tron decks that use Sowing Micah's Spawn with the Tron pieces as another way to find them, which is really, really cool. But this is also using the powerful new lands from MH3. Ugin's Labyrinth, which is a soul land, effectively, in Modern. As long as you have some big card that's seven cost or more, that's colorless, that you can put under it, which, well, you play quite a few. You have Devourer of Destiny, Null Drifter, World Breaker, Emrakul, etc., etc. There's quite a few different ways to do it. You play these kind of cards so you can ramp out your stuff. It's very often you'll see that they go turn 1 ramp effect into ramp effect. They'll have the Ugin's Labyrinth into like a talisman or a whatever they can find to just make it go off. Or sometimes they even have the good old Ponza style of Forest Utopia Sprawl, which, sure, it's just something they do. Really good at using its mana, really, really fast at doing it. There's nothing scarier than like a turn 1 Utopia Sprawl into a turn 2 Sowing Micah's Spawn, and they ramp another land, which is it could be an Eldrazi Temple, it could be whatever else. And you're like, wait, what? My opponent has 6 mana, I have a single land on the battlefield. What did I do wrong? And it just gets you. It's very powerful. It's a nightmare to deal with for the more controlling style decks, but it does have a bit of a pain when it fights very, very fast aggro or combo, as it's not always the easiest to get to them. It has the usual growing pains that Tron could have, where something that's too fast can kind of just get you before you set up your mana. I know Belcher is a bit of a nightmare matchup because you don't have as many tools to actually fight it. But it's very cool deck. Does a lot of big Eldrazi. If you like big Timmy cards, if you like being Duffy, this is the deck for you.
So this sort of appeals to the Tron players, and the difference between the old style Tron and this is with Tron you had to then assemble the Tron package, assemble the lines. It's almost like assembling a combo, and then you can cast your big game winning stuff. But with this, you can achieve your game winning threats by just simply making land drops. Like you can just curve out simply making land drops. Whether you Utopia Sprawl that helps that, or you get your talismans out, you can just literally play Ugin's Labyrinth, play a Eldrazi Temple, and then there's your Sowing Micah's Spawn on turn 2, for example.
Exactly.
obviously you need green mana, but yeah. But some of the decks, some of the decks just play colorless 4-drops, etc. You know, I've seen Karn in these lists with a wishboard, etc. So yeah, the deck's really cool. Like it's not something I've ever played. Maybe I should give it a go in a league one time. I would like to.
Yeah, it's good to test it. It's good to know how it plays, what it does. And a really cool thing with the deck as well, something that we probably should have mentioned a little earlier, it plays a card called Malevolent Rumble. This is a common from MH3. You'll find that it's in quite a few of the deck lists that we're going to be linking to you guys. It's a incredible card. You know, it's 2 mana for a sorcery that reveals the top 4 cards of your library. You put a permanent card from among them into your hand, and then the rest into your graveyard, and you create a 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn, which is sacrifice this creature, add a colorless to your mana pool. It's a way of kind of double ramping you, and then getting an important card into your hand. So you know you're getting 3 card types or more into your graveyard. You're making a colorless spawn, and then you're grabbing the best of the 4 cards that you revealed back into your hand. This can make your Emrakul cost very cheap, very quickly, which is amazing. And it can get you, maybe you milled over your Cavern of Souls, boom, got it. You milled over just another land that you needed. You don't need lands, you just need a big fat drop of some sort, boom, got it. It's a really versatile card that does a lot of what you want it to do. This is not the only deck that uses it. Grinding Station uses it as well for a similar effect. Not as much on the ramp side, but just filling up your graveyard, getting the cards that you need. And you'll see that many other decks using things like Yawgmoth or the fair green-black style Green Sun Zenith decks, etc. So it's really cool.
Great little deck. It's loved by a lot of people. You can splash blue in it for sideboard cards such as Mystical Disputes and Consigned to Memories, etc. It's just a really versatile deck, really versatile and really strong deck. Absolutely.
And then it brings us to our 5th deck on the list. Good old Belcher. Belcher. If you like your combo degeneracy, this is the deck for you.
This is probably the. I know we had a combo deck as the best deck going forward, and this is probably the one true combo deck that is in the list in terms of the fact that it's doing this one thing, and that's getting a Belcher out as early as not getting just a Belcher out, but getting a Lotus Bloom out by turn 4, playing your Belcher and then Belchering them to death. Belcher reads, so Goblin Char Belcher is a 4-mana artifact. Put 3 mana and tapping it. You reveal cards on the top of your library until you reveal a land card. Goblin Char Belcher deals damage equal to the number of non-land cards revealed this way to any target. If the revealed land card was a mountain, Goblin Char Belcher deals double that damage instead. Put the revealed cards on the bottom of your library in any order. Now, why, Luis, is this very special in this deck? What is it about this deck that makes this card very good?
Well, listeners, if you're looking along and looking at the Belcher deck list, you might notice that it has 0 lands.
0 lands.
0 lands.
And that's thanks to the MDFCs that were released in Modern Horizons 3. That gave lands some spells, the ability to be played as lands. So while they're in the deck, they technically don't class as lands. So when you activate Goblin Char Belcher, you mill your entire deck and do whatever damage to the opponent's face.
Yeah. We've had a lot. We've had some from, I think, Zendikar Rising, from MH3 are the newest ones. Can't remember if we had others in the past. I think mostly are from the Zendikar Rising. And it's really interesting because these cards, when you see them, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, they're fine. They do stuff. It's nice to have a spell that is also a land when it needed to be. But then you look at decks like this that came from it, and it's insane. It's so cool to look at that. Oh, wow, I don't have to put any basic lands or fetch lands or anything in my deck. I can just play these other things that are also spells, and I have a very powerful deck. It's really cool in that way because it gives you a angle that isn't normal, right? Normally when you play Magic, you think, oh, I have to make a choice between my lands or my spells, my lands or my spells. This deck avoids that problem as much as it can by playing these MDSC cards. So now you have either a land or a spell, and you can choose what, when, or why you want to use it, and as you see fit, which is always really cool to have, because one of the worst parts of Magic can be having completely non-games because you drew too many lands or you drew too few lands, and this is an amazing way to get around that. But then this deck is really cool that it's not just combo in the way that it functions. So it is winning through Charbelcher, and it's a combo piece of sorts, but it's also a control deck, right? That's what this deck kind of comes down to. It's a controlling blue deck that has a I win button when it gets there, and it's trying to assemble the pieces together to get that done. That's the combo aspect. But because it has so many controlling tools, it can stop your opponent from either getting you too quickly, from stopping you from doing your combo, which is a nice, fun way to play Magic. I know counter spells are not everyone's favorite. I really love them. I think it's a really neat way to play, and I'm excited to have this kind of deck existing, even if I'm not much of a combo player myself.
So it does have the Tameshi combo in there with Lotus Bloom.
Yeah.
So Tameshi Reality Artifact is a 2 and a blue. And it's a legendary creature. Whenever one or more non-creature permanents are returned to hand, draw a card. This ability triggers only once per turn. And for an X and 1 white, return a land you control to its owner's hand. Return target artifact or enchantment card with a mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So what this means is that you can, for as many lands that are out in the battlefield, you can then bring Lotus Bloom back from the graveyard, sacrifice it, net 3 mana, bring it back with Tameshi for as many lands as you got, accumulate a lot of mana, potentially get a Charbelcher out from your graveyard, or if you've got your Charbelcher in your hand anyway, you've drew cards from sacrificing your lands, but also picked up your lands as well. This deck plays a lot of counter spells that require you to pitch a spell, which could be your lands, and then you can get your Charbelcher out through that combination. But it plays 2-drops such as Phalagia Archaeologist, Thundertrap Trainer, to then, and even one of the lands is a Hydro Electric Specimen, so that can be classed as a creature too, and it plays Flare of Denials too, so you can play low to the ground creatures that help you assemble your combo, but then can be sacrificed to Flare of Denial, so it plays a lot of counter spells. But if you look closely at some of these spells, for example, Bayin Veil, which is an MDFC, for 1 and a blue, creatures your opponent controls gets -2/-0 till end of turn. That can buy you an entire turn in this deck.
Could be a fog,
might be
right?
100% can be a fog. Yeah, there's a lot of things it plays. Disrupting Shoal. Again, use your lands to pitch to counter that spell, counter spells, and even things like Juari Disruption. 1 and a blue, counter target spells and control plays 1. You just got hard cast dazed. You know what I mean? Like, so there's a lot of resilience. One of the biggest things that enable this deck to be really powerful, particularly in the Demir mirrors. I do think Demir is favored, or tempo generally is no matter what style of tempo you're playing is favored. But Whir of Invention's very good, where you can end step, tutor for your Lotus Bloom. Enters the battlefield without the suspend, then the untap into the Belcher combo. So the Belcher combo is really good. Shout out to Michael Local, who's looking into getting into Modern with this deck. This guy plays Belcher in Legacy, and obviously it's a natural.
Another one of them.
He's actually an insane Belcher player, to be fair. Like, it's mental. But yeah, really cool deck. Definitely in the top 5 power levels, I think, especially with Boros Energy being so high up in this list as well.
And this brings us to the end of the top 5. However, we did have an honorable mention that we wanted to get in there. It was very close to making the top 5. It was very, neck and neck. Honestly, might be in the top 5. It's really hard to say. But it is very powerful. It's a deck that we expected to come back after the Ring finally leaving our beautiful, beautiful game. And that's Yawgmoth. The deck that never quite ever seems to stay dead. Wonderfully strong deck. It's very fun to play. What were you going to say, Josh?
I was going to say shout out to Tom, a local player who know it is.
And it's, I think one of Dingo's favorites as well. He used to play this deck quite a bit. Control for
the meat man.
Yeah, the meat
man.
More meat.
Beat more meat.
Yeah. This is a very strong combo-esque beatdown deck, I guess is what I would call it, because it has a creature package that it can kind of just get you down with, but essentially it is trying to fulfill a combo. The combo is not linear. He doesn't really just do the thing and that's it. Because it's trying to assemble a Yawgmoth with a sort of drain effect aristocrat piece, which is usually Blood Artist. There's a few other ways that you can do it, but that's the most common piece, with 2 undying creatures, usually 2 young wolves or something along those lines. So whenever you do the loop of sack my young wolf, put a counter on whatever, now this young wolf comes back when it has a counter on it. Well, the counter that you're putting is a -1/-1. So what you can do with the other young wolf is, now I'll sack this young wolf, put a -1/-1 on the other young wolf that has a +1/+1, so it negates it. And then the young wolf comes back alive and it has a +1/+1, and you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again, and again, and again, over and over again. And if you have Blood Artist out, well, you just killed your opponent, right? You're draining them for 1 each time, and because you have the Blood Artist, you're gaining 1 each as well, and that lets you kill them right away. Otherwise, you can just use Yawgmoth as a great value piece. You do that young wolf thing, you fill your hand as many cards as you want, and you get them. And it plays other powerful fair cards like Grist, the Hunger Tide. It's a very, very strong planeswalker. It's a nightmare to deal with. It has Agatha's Soul Cauldron as well, as a way of, hey, you killed my Grist or my Yawgmoth? Well, now everything I have is a Grist or a Yawgmoth. And that is scary. Very, very scary, beyond belief. So it's a really cool way that this deck can play from not just the board and it's wonderfully fighting spells and value, but also from the graveyard and how it plays it. So it's very powerful deck, very strong. It has some issues with board wipes, has some issues with just a lot of removal spells.
It needs critical mass to function.
It does. It needs critical mass.
It requires the graveyard too, so you can attack the graveyard, attack the onboard sort of creature base, etc. But it can come back. It's very resilient. You can top deck a Yawgmoth and you can get back into the game that way. If you manage to get a Grist underneath a Agatha Soul Cauldron, it can be a real issue for a lot of grinding. Create a real grindy value accumulating game, etc.
And your life total matters a lot in this deck as well. It's one of the easiest ways. What I do is just play a fast Murktide and beat the crap out of them as fast as I can. Because even if I don't kill them, well, if they only have 6 life, they can't usually combo off because they can't find the Blood Artist in time. Or it's that kind of effect that you really usually take to defeat this kind of deck. It's also really cool that it is using Green Sun Zenith. People were saying, oh, Green Sun Zenith can't be used by Yawgmoth. It doesn't grab Yawgmoth because Yawgmoth is a black creature. Turns out Grist is green. And it's a creature when it's in your deck or not on the battlefield. And that's a great way to grab her out or it out. It's a really, really powerful card. Uses things like Delighted Halfwing as well, which is a nuisance and a half to not allow their spells to get counterspelled. And it just has a lot of really cool angles of attack. I love doing the Fulminator loop. You get a Fulminator Mage under Agatha Soul Cauldron, and now everything you have just destroys a land, make the Eldrazi player cry. It's a wonderful thing.
Everything's a Fulminator Mage and everything's a Grist. So each other make insect tokens, and then
blow themselves up.
Just blow themselves up to destroy all your lands.
And they get more counters on those insects; they become that as well.
It's just a very grindy deck. It rewards patience and it rewards seeing lines of play, etc. There's no necessarily I win button. You are going to be playing games of Magic in this deck, but you're going to create. I've conceded to this deck more than I've just been killed by it. You know what I mean? Like I'm just like, you've. There's no way we're coming back from this.
It makes overwhelming game states. That's what it does.
Yeah. Cool. Any other decks you would like to honorably mention? I mean, I can't think of any right now because I think I'm pretty convinced this is the top 5.
I think this is top 5.
Currently.
I'll give a shout out. I'm not going to put deck list for these guys because I'm sure you'll know them if you play Modern at all. But I'll give a shout out to like Amulet Titan. Very strong deck. Very powerful deck.
Don't give a shout out to that. No, Louis, stop it.
This is why we weren't allowed to have it, guys.
When he meant Goryo's Vengeance, didn't you, Louis?
Yeah, Goryo's Vengeance. Yeah, Goryo's
Thank
Vengeance.
you.
Yeah.
Good lads.
Good shout out to those decks. They're very powerful, very strong. And the creativity as well. Another deck that's very powerful, very strong, using Faithless Looting. Unsure.
Brute Scale combo. Brute Scale combo.
Yeah, Brute Scale could have definitely been in the top 5. I don't know. If I'm honest with you guys, it's a. We decided to put Breach up there instead. So, they're very similar in a lot of the ways they play.
So, Louise, sorry, I've just noticed I've just been scrolling MTG Goldfish now as we're recording this, and the Modern Challenge from today. Top Grinder Station.
Yep.
Second, Murktide. Third, Boros Energy. Fourth, Belcher. I don't see
Eldrazi ramp anywhere.
No, not on this one. A lot of Belcher though.
Yeah.
Eldrazi ramp there came. The one that's seen is 18th. Rhinos is coming back as well. Check that out.
Yeah, there's a lot of decks. There's a lot. So if you
Modern
liked,
is amazing.
If you liked Modern before the 1-1 got printed, MH2, that's roughly where we're back at, with some new pieces, new things, new decks that exist now. But that's roughly where we've gone to. Where Blue Red Murktide was a really good deck, but now it's Blue Black instead. Where Jeskai Breach is what existed. Now it's Temur. There was some version of Big Mana that existed, and now it's Eldrazi Ramp. So it's gone back there a little, and Yawgmoth obviously still exists.
No control. Control got a hit from the One Ring getting going. That's somewhat a shame for that archetype, but
But it has won some challenges here and there. We've seen both Jeskai control and blue-white control. I think win or get very close. I think one of them won. I'm not sure if the other did. But they've done relatively well. You don't see them as often. They don't top challenges very, very often. But they're still playable. They're still decent. So keep an eye out. Maybe someone will innovate something into that, or maybe you can be that innovator. It'd be very, very nice to see. Just if you do innovate it, keep it hush hush. No one wants to see your control deck. All right. No one wants to see Teferi.
Especially Christian.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you everyone for joining us on this top 5. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and tell us your pick, your modern pick. What deck really gets the juices flowing for you? We want to know about it. We love modern. Modern is amazing. We're going to move on to the next pod to talk about our top 5 for standard, so keep an eye out for that. But yeah, keep and those playing in the RC, if we don't mention it now, good luck, and yeah.
Let us know what resonates with you.
Hope you don't get beat too hard by Team Chad Magic. Sorry.
Thanks everybody. You guys take care, and hopefully you join us on the next one, guys. Take care. Have a good one.
Bye.